everyone, my name is Weston Wilbin, and this is my final presentation for the Pop Culture and Star Wars CTZN 110 Section 3 course, Part 1, Star Wars was perfect for its time. To start off, we first must talk about why, in my opinion, Star Wars is so influential to the world. I think one of the main reasons why Star Wars really stuck with people was the relatability of the characters. It does not matter how outgoing or different you are, seemingly everyone can find at least one of the characters to relate to. And with such a large and diverse cast, especially given the time at which the first film released, it's hard to find anyone who doesn't relate or feel connected to any of the characters in the Star Wars franchise. Specifically, for the main trilogy, though, I feel that its release was absolutely perfect. Having released only 2 years after the Vietnam War ended, many Americans and people all over the world were still recovering from the direct and indirect effects of the war. So those circumstances, combined with the original Star Wars films being so focused on a war and its effects, the films really resonated with a large audience. The films also were not afraid to take risks and to not downplay the audience as other films of the time had. Star Wars knew when it had to be serious, and it knew when it was able to joke around, all of which created a wonderfully constructed and easy to watch film. Many of those same attributes are also why modern-day Marvel movies are such a hit with people. It's clear that an audience is captivated by serious scenarios combined with humor along the way. I believe that another main reason why these films did so well is because of their relatability to a large range of ages. Before Star Wars, you had films that were specifically tailored for adults and specifically tailored for children. But Star Wars changed that. It showed that you can produce a film that audiences of every generation will be engaged in and enjoy. Being able to capture such a variety of ages and demographics is incredibly important for a film's success, as it gets people talking about it. You would have kids on the playground talking about Star Wars and reenacting scenes from the films. At the same time, you would have adults in their workspaces chatting about the film and its relatability. As with most things, before modern ways of communication, talking about something was one way to surely guarantee its success. While communication played a huge role in the film's success, I believe that another incredibly important part is its marketing. George Lucas was a genius when it came to marketing. He knew that it was the key ingredient to a film's success. As no other film had done this previously, Fox International Productions was more than willing to allow Lucas full control over the marketing. Because of this, he used what he had in both knowledge and skill to cater towards everyone. George Lucas is not only a brilliant film producer, but also an extraordinary businessman, as he saw the economic and social impacts that merchandising can have. With a film as reliant on out-of-this-world ideas and concepts, being able to produce and provide merchandise of items used within the films, such as lightsabers that have never been seen on Earth, helps immerse the audience even more into the films. All of these factors are huge reasons why I believe that the original trilogy of the Star Wars films were so successful. Part 2, Luke Skywalker's Journey. Luke Skywalker is a character that very strictly follows Joseph Campbell's 3 stages of the hero's journey. To start off, he begins his departure with what the text describes as the call to adventure. He experienced a disruption of comfort that can clearly be seen as Luke begins to get curious about the rest of the galaxy. His discomfort stems from feeling as though his life is unchanging and incomplete. He believes that he would have more positive potential if he were given the opportunity to leave his home planet. However, both his aunt and uncle refuse this, telling Luke of the horrors and dangers being outside of the planet. Luke brushes them off as he knows he can accomplish something great, given the right time and resources. Although initially, Luke does have doubts about his abilities until he encounters Obi-Wan Kenobi. While already having a previous neutral opinion on the older man, Luke decides to listen to him and his wisdom, despite how ridiculous it all sounds. After his initial talk with Obi-Wan, where Luke finds out about a princess having been kidnapped by an evil, he returns home to find that the very evil in which Obi-Wan had been talking about had just killed his only known family members. This begins the initiation stage of Luke's journey as a hero. He has finally, as the text described, crossed the threshold. The death of his aunt and uncle is what inspires Luke to finally do what he had been longing to do since the beginning of the film. This event is what gives him the real reason to pursue his adventure. Obi-Wan encourages him and provides insight and knowledge into the galaxy as Luke begins his adventure. Over the course of this learning period, he meets Han Solo and informs him of the princess's capture. Han Solo, being a smuggler, saw no real reason in why he should care, until Luke later informs him about the amount of money that could be involved. And so, Luke gains his first new ally to help him in his hero's journey. Followed by Han Solo are two droids, R2-D2 and C-3PO. They decide to join him as well. Described in the text, this part is extremely important for the character as it gives real motivation and reason for his journey. And so that's the initiation stage. But what about his return? In terms of the original trilogy, especially in the first film, the return seems to be glossed over, as there is not much screen time given to it. However, this does not mean that it isn't important. If anything, it's the most important part of the entire film. During the return, the characters are able to reflect and acknowledge the growth they have had. For Luke, this is entirely positive growth. He found he was able to do exactly what he had set out for and had newly gained confidence for himself to keep going. Luke Skywalker's determination shows through as he returns to what is now his new normal. He experienced so much over the course of his time exploring the galaxy, and it all came together in the end to help him mature and create new bonds that will help him grow even more. Reflection is probably one of the most important aspects of Luke's return. After learning so much about his family, good and bad, he must choose where he wants to go, given this new information he has. He decides that his fate is one that's worth living for good, and after seeing how his own father could be redeemed, he knows that it's possible for even the most evil to change their ways. All of these combined make up the entirety of Luke Skywalker's hero journey across the galaxy and space. Maturity, growth, and new beginnings, as indicated by the first film's title, A New Hope, are all aspects of the important journey that Luke had gone through. Part 3. Good versus evil. The Star Wars films show a strong and clear reference to society's idea of social justice. The films make it very clear who is supposed to be good and who is supposed to be evil. While there are many times in which the audience questions whether or not a character's motives can be described as truly evil, they're still aware that the character's motives were good or bad. This clear distinction between good and bad helps the audience connect even more to the story. In the United States alone, you can see how the idea of being good or not truly decides one's way of life, most notably through the idea of guilty until proven innocent. In the name of that idea alone, you have evil being guilty and good being innocent. The films also make it very clear that an individual chooses the path of good or evil. The entire idea behind being a Jedi is rejecting any negative and dark urges that one feels to instead provide the greater good for the galaxy. But this begs the question of what is considered negative and dark. In the film, it seems that any kind of action or emotion that stems from a hatred of some kind deems it evil. But how is it possible to not feel any kind of hatred at all? I think this might be the one point in the film that clearly shows humans having a disadvantage. It's not clear how other species are able to handle their emotions, but we all know the phrase of, "It's okay, you're only human." This phrase is commonly used to explain someone's actions in terms of the qualities that a Jedi would call evil. So how can we truly trust that what the Jedi decide as good is truly good, if clearly there are flaws? Well, we can look at their actions as a whole for that. In their entirety, the goal of a Jedi is to use the abilities and powers they have to combat those who wish to do harm on the galaxy. The harm being done in the case of the films is the dark side assuming complete dictatorship over the entire galaxy, and while not fully accomplished, that was still their end goal, to control the entire galaxy. This would be considered evil by the Jedis, as this does not allow other species to live freely and make their own choices, something that they feel very passionate about protecting. The Jedi see all life as worth living and recognize their unique individual gifts. This good and braveness is celebrated even within the films, as shown at the end of the first one, when the main characters receive rewards for their accomplishments. Star Wars has been around for almost 50 years now, and yet it still continues to inspire and encourage new generations. The films are timeless and showcase the human experience as a whole, if not directly in the films, then in the way the audience reacts to it. Thank you so much.